Welcome everybody to today's webinar, Top 10 Fundamentals of Real Estate Investment. Let's jump right into it. Fundamental number one, money is made on the buy. The key to this fundamental is that you buy the property right. And generally, when I'm looking to invest in a property, I generally want to purchase the property 25 to 35% below market value. How can this be done in this current market? Generally, I get 10 to 15 deals across my desk every week, and most weeks and many months, I just pass. The key is, and especially for those that are new investors, you want to jump right into it. You want to get your first deal under your belt. And with that exuberance, oftentimes you buy the property wrong. When you buy the property at 25 to 30%, 35% below market value, you already have your profit margin built in, whether you're in an up market or a down market. It's very rare, even during the Great Recession, that properties have lost more than 35% of their market value. So the key is patience, 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 and understand the marketplace and develop your fundamental investment strategy and utilize this going forward. Fundamental number two, go against the grain. Right now, many people are trying to buy apartment buildings. Maybe you should look in the warehouse and industrial sector. Right now, as we see, and we're recording this webinar July 7th of 2020, and we're in the midst of the global COVID-19 pandemic. And as we see, based on a lot of the stay-at-home orders and shelter-in-place orders and the reopening of the economy, one sector that is getting hit very hard is retail. And so one opportunity that you may look at right now is retail. Because ultimately, and what we're seeing right now is repurposing of a lot of retail into other asset classes. One asset class that is not the most glamorous or sexy class is the warehouse and industrial class. And you can see from the fundamentals that this class is performing strongly and actually is beating last year's goal. Because with a lot of the shift away from in-person retail, in-person office, there's a lot of opportunities for companies that are providing services to Amazon or other online marketplaces, or developing their own type of e-commerce system. So there's a lot of opportunities involved for folks in that sector. And right now, there's not a lot of folks that are looking to retail because their performance is so bad. So again, that's a great opportunity for an upside in that particular sector. But the key is go against the grain, because the less competition you have for deals, the more likely the terms you are looking for will be met. And then also what we're seeing right now is, at least in this current time frame, which is July 7, 2020, there's still a lot of folks that are waiting on the sidelines to see which way the market is going. But what I can tell you is, especially in the commercial real estate sector, there's a lot of sellers whose mortgages are in special servicing, and if it continues that they're not making their mortgage payments by September or October of this year, a lot of their properties their lenders are going to begin foreclosure proceedings. And again, you're not going to find a more anxious or willing seller when they're facing the loss of a property based on a lender foreclosure. And we have a separate seminar webinar that is on our YouTube channel, Legal Pitfalls of Distressed Real Estate Transactions, and I encourage you to watch that webinar if you're interested in that particular sector. Fundamental number three is identify and perfect your strategy. So if you're looking to buy properties, residential properties wholesale, and sell quickly and flip the property, work hard on it. If you want to concentrate on buying condos on Miami Beach, perfect it. If you want to buy tax certificates, master it. If you want to buy single family homes, hold them and rent them, be the best at that you can be. If you want to buy pre-construction condos, dominate it. Many investors fail because they don't focus on their model. So historically, my investment model has been to purchase lower end residential properties and then fix them and flip them. But always, we always have at least a portion of the property that's deriving their income and is covering my costs. Now, I have had failure in a couple transactions, which I'll talk to you about right now. Any investor or any investment quote unquote guru that tells you that they have never ever had any type of failure in their investment is absolutely lying to you and may never have been an investor. I had one of my worst transactions when my partner and I bought I'm not even going to say a C property, a D property in West Palm Beach, Florida. And we liked that property because it was zoned residential, but it was currently being used as a lease to a governmental entity for single tenant occupancy. And it was utilized as a community court. And the seller told us that the community court was going to a new property and they gave notice and they would vacate the property within a year. Guess what happened? Within a month from closing, they notified us that they were vacating the property. So there went my income strategy. So our next step was, well, we're going to try to go ahead and get the property ready for Section 8 housing because it was a perfect market in that particular area. So then we listed the property for lease for single family. And in the interim, we had a reverend enter into a contract with us who never even provided a escrow deposit. But candidly, I believe in karma, and I did not want to sue a man of God for a default under the real estate contract. So then ultimately what happened is I became extremely difficult with my real estate partner in the transaction, and I was able to negotiate a buyout where I received my initial investment in full. Guess what happened? The minute I got out of the partnership, my partner who owned 100% of the entity made 200% profit on the sale of the building. What did I do wrong? I went outside of my comfort zone. When I delved from my comfort zone, which was fix and flip residential, and I moved into commercial real estate where there wasn't a firm income strategy in place. There wasn't a firm tenant, and I knew going in that the tenant was going to vacate it. But my strategy was just like in my residential fix and flips, I was going to fix the property and flip it to another investor. Well, my flip flopped. At least on my end, my partner did very well with patience. And again, that goes back to fundamental number one. You don't want to ever be too eager. You want to have patience, patience, patience. Fundamental number 4 is you want to know the inherent cost before you make the investment. The key to real estate investment, the key to successful real estate investment is knowledge. It's important that you calculate the initial cost of the investment, rehab costs, carrying costs, and unknown costs before you make your investment. You want to know what the closing costs are. I'm a real estate lawyer, so that's easy for me to figure out. What I'm not is a contractor. So a lot of you that are listening right now, you either are a contractor or have a contractor partner. The one thing to be very clear on is make sure that you have a contingency in your budget. So my rehab costs or my construction costs, I add a 20% contingency so that I know, as well I know, and as many of you know, when you're working on a project, you want to make sure that you have all the contingencies in place, because you know when you're dealing in rehab costs for single family or residential properties that your job is always going to go over what's your trim budget that you've allocated for it. And again, additionally, if you have financing, you want to know what your total nut is going to be. And what I mean by that is your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, association fees, if any, if we're talking about a residential property. And again, the one thing that I have learned throughout the years is you always want to vary your contractors, especially I'm recording this and I'm based in South Florida. And I can tell you that even the most reliable contractors, after a while, I don't know what if it's the sun or the nature of how we do business in Florida, but the bottom line is that you have to vary your team, because after a while, your trusted, reliable contractor may get too busy, may have other issues in his life, and they aren't as reliable. So have a pool, have a team, and we're going to talk about that a little later, is you want to build your successful dream team of experts in this particular area. And that jumps right into it. Fundamental number 5, develop your team. One of the strategies that I teach my students is to surround yourself with a team of the best professionals, best handyman contractor, best attorney, best surveyor, best insurance professional, best mortgage professional. Where many real estate investors, and I have done this myself, and I'm going to tell you another war story, is that you think you're saving money by doing everything yourself. So we bought a property in Delray Beach, Florida, and we unbeknownst to us, and we should have again done our due diligence, the property was built on a dump, the old garbage dump in the city of Delray Beach. And as a result of it, the foundation was sinking. So we hired our quote unquote dream team of contractors. It was myself, my real estate partner, Dirty Bill, and my real estate partner's brother-in-law. And needless to say, it was a nightmare. A regular job that a professional contractor would have done in 3 or 4 days, it took us 3 weeks. And in addition to that, we were in an area which was probably, again, a D area, and we had our appliances stolen 4 times in the property. Luckily for us, though, despite all of these drawbacks and challenges, we were able to flip this property for a 300% profit to another investor, a colleague of ours. Guess what happened to them? Because we bought it right, they bought it wrong. They lost that particular property in a foreclosure proceeding. But again, don't try to do everything yourself. I know what my limitations are. I'm great at negotiating deals. I'm great at structuring financing, getting investors interested in the project. What I'm not good at is being the contractor myself. I can barely change a light bulb. So I always have my trusted contractor and crew on the deals that we undertake. Fundamental number 6, the insider's edge. It's very rare that great deals are found on the MLS. An imperative member of your team are bird dogs, or property acquisition specialists. Back in the good old days, which was not that long ago, which was like 15 or 20 years ago, oftentimes what investors did was they would send postcards, they would do door knocking. When I first got started with some of my investor team, they told me, Steve, you want to become a property investor? I said, sure. Well, they said, we're going to drop you off in this area and you're going to go knocking on doors and you're going to find us a deal. So needless to say, what happened was I got cursed at numerous times. I got chased away with a shotgun a couple times, but I did find that one deal. So what I always tell all my students and my colleagues and my clients and my children is, don't ever stop being pervasive and persuasive. You can get 99 no's, but then there's that one, and it's all about that one. All you need is 1 out of 100 and you're going to be successful. 99 no's, again, in this business, you have to have thick skin. You have to have the ability to take no for an answer and keep on keeping on. The first step and the best step to being a potential master investor is become a bird dog, become a property acquisition specialist. Now, what you certainly can pound the pavement, and certainly during this age of COVID-19 where we're social distancing, I don't advise it, but it's created a new economy. You can set up YouTube videos. You can set up Craigslist posts. You can do Facebook ads, Instagram ads. There are so many ways through social media and technology you can reach homeowners. Get a website, do geo tracking ads. You always can cold call. There's a lot of great information. There's a lot of great software right now, and there's free online ability in most counties where you can find out who the owner is. And certainly through some detective work, you can get their phone number. You don't have to go door knocking anymore with all the technology. But the key is you want to find the insider's edge. Unless it's a violation of federal or state law, which there's no such concept as insider trading in real estate. The more non-public knowledge, the better. If, for example, and one of the other terms that we always provide to our students, which is a term of art, is what is your farm area? If you grew up in the same area for 30 years and you went to college, that you went to elementary school, middle school, high school, you know everybody that's anybody, especially if you're watching this video from a smaller town. You know what Mrs. Jones and Mr. Jones is, and you know all these people. So utilize this knowledge to your advantage. Fundamental number 7, you want to perfect your marketing plan. It's important to know if you find the perfect deal, you can, and will find the money and investors to get it done. You want to develop a disciplined system of learning the marketplace, sourcing deals, develop funding partners, managing your crew, and managing your properties. We do a separate webinar on real estate syndication. And that shows you how to, through federal securities law, get investors to invest in your project. But you want to network amongst fellow realtors and other related real estate professionals. You want to cultivate these contacts as a source of deals for you. You know, a great opportunity are the local real estate investment clubs that many of my clients are involved in. And certainly they're not meeting in person these days, and that through Zoom and some other online technology, there's online meetings. But again, don't think that you're competing with these folks. The great thing about real estate transactions is it's a collaborative process. It's not an adversarial process. And you want to utilize all of this to your advantage. Fundamental number 8, don't be afraid of a deal with warts. And what I tell you is, especially for me, because I'm an attorney, a lot of the warts that we're going to talk about are excellent opportunities because I understand and appreciate the risk. Value is created when there's a distress or other market condition. We talked about it earlier. Foreclosure is a great opportunity. And it's very easy to search the public records and find out which foreclosure cases have commenced. You're definitely going to find a motivated seller if their property is subject to foreclosure. You can look online and you can see when a lis pendens has been filed, and a lis pendens is a Latin term for a notice of action, and that provides notice to you that this property is subject to a foreclosure proceeding. You can also search the public record to see which properties are part of a divorce, which properties are part of probate. Certainly, one strategy is a value add strategy where you take a property with high vacancy rates and you stabilize it and then you lease it up to market rents. Another strategy, which is certainly not for the faint at heart, especially not for a novice investor, is to take a property with environmental issues, clean up the environmental issues, and then utilize the value to sell the property to the highest bidder. The biggest transaction that I ever handled in my career involved my client purchasing vacant land that had significant environmental issues. They cleaned up the property and they sold the property, which was entitled for 535 home sites, and they sold the property for $60 million, where they only had $10 million into the property. That's a great deal. That's a generational wealth creating deal. But keep in mind, remember, in this business, all you have is your word and your performance. So try to be mindful of this at all times. Plan your exit strategy, but also be malleable about what your investment strategy will be. When you buy your properties, always identify the strategy. Fix and flip, hold and rent, demolish, rebuild, or rezone. buy vacant land, get it entitled, resell, wash, rinse, and repeat. But you always want to be flexible as market conditions can change extremely rapidly. Be mindful, and one of the reasons why I like income producing properties the best, even if you have to lease them up or if there's a value add situation, is I always have an income stream to manage my cash flow, and I will not purchase a property unless there's income stream provided that at least cover what my carrying costs are. That's my goal. Now, I don't always follow it, but needless to say, when I buy a property, the minute I close on it, it's for sale. You can buy it from me at the right price. What's my price? Each property has a different price point, but needless to say, everything is always for sale. If you aren't that flexible, then you aren't following any of my fundamentals. But that's the key to being a master investor, is that you want to have the ability to be flexible and malleable as the market conditions apply. Lastly, real estate involves people. And this goes to my last story. If a seller doesn't like you, the transaction is going to be very difficult or you will not get the deal. I found the perfect property. I found a condominium, I found a hotel on Miami Beach, on Collins Avenue, across the street from the ocean. It was listed for $5 million. We already had our projections. We underwrote the deal. We were going to convert the property to condominiums. We were going to have a boutique condominium hotel on Collins Avenue. It already had a flag, so we were in great shape. We would have swapped the flag out from a budget provider to a luxury provider. And my projections was I was going to have 1,000% return on my investment. I already had the equity for the deal provided. I had the lender in place. I went in, I started negotiating with the agent, and I went through some very detailed analysis on why I was only going to pay $4.5 million for the property. My parents were excited. My dad was going to be in. All he was charging me was 3 points and 15% interest, which is borderline usurious, but hey, it was my dad, so that's the least he could do, right? And so the agent said, we're not buying it for that. And you know what? You're a jerk. And she hung up on me. So then I went back, I talked to my partner, and I went back to the agent and I said, I'm going to buy this property. We'll buy it for the listing price, $5 million. And the agent got back to me really quickly and she told me, there is no way in bleep we're going to sell the property. I think you're an a-hole. The seller thinks you're an a-hole. Good luck, hang up, click. There was the end of my dream deal. With this deal, this would have been some generation changing wealth. I would have been able to retire on this transaction. And why did I lose the deal? Because I was a jerk and I forgot fundamental number 10, that real estate involves people. Needless to say, I'm a lawyer, so I'm not, by definition, I'm not a people person. So needless to say, I learned something from this transaction. And just going along to my second bullet point, even if you offer in excess of the listed purchase price, sellers don't have to sell. Additionally, you always want to be mindful of the fair housing laws. Well, I hope you enjoyed our top 10 fundamentals of real estate. And please subscribe above to our YouTube channel, and you'll be the first to know of our instant premieres and learn all of our new content. Well, I hope you stay safe. And if you are watching this during the pandemic, we're almost to the end of this. We're on our road to getting back. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And I look forward to you attending future presentations.